Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Dr. Tom Walsh joining us. Excited. Our professional of the year is joining us, our veterinarian and owner of PrimePet Rehab. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to be back with you, Jill.
Great. How's the weather where you are?
Doing fantastic. We had a big rainstorm yesterday, but it's nice and sunny today on the beach.
Oh, yay. Beautiful. Awesome. And where are you located for people that may not know?
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, right in the center of the city. And I have been here for we're going on our third year now. And I was mobile before that, going around as a vet during COVID, trying to keep from losing my mind and doing rehab in empty buildings. Can you imagine being having an injured dog and me coming out to your car? We have to talk through a mask. I hijack your dog and take them inside the building for 30 minutes or an hour, and then I bring them back and they're not limping anymore. Can you imagine what's going on in those owners' heads? And some of those owners are still with me. Not because their dog is broken, but because they're not going to leave me. They're just going to make sure their dog's going to keep staying well.
Beautiful.
Crazy times during the pandemic.
I know. My goodness. Well, we're excited you're here today. Give us a little overview of the work you're doing, and then we're going to go into this Corenza approach.
Sure. I am a veterinarian that is specializing in nothing but rehabilitation. I do it for dogs and cats, primarily, mostly dogs, because the cats they object often when they have to get in a car, but I
Yes.
do treat them when it's necessary when they can get here. But we've been operating here for, like I said, about 5 years in the Myrtle Beach area, and it is the probably the most rewarding job on the planet.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're excited that you're here, and we're going to talk more now about this specific approach with our dogs. What is this Corenza approach? Could you share a little bit about what that is?
Sure thing. So first of all, I guess the background story is really kind of helpful to kind of get understand what we are and what we're
Yep.
doing with this idea. I over the course of my rehab career, I was helping animals, and I realized that I was saying the same things over and over to these owners, and it caused me to think. Okay, so it's not just rhetoric. It's something that I believe in, and it's something that I'm very passionate, and I have very specific ways that I want to talk about the animal. And so I actually put pen to paper, and I actually came up with this idea that to fully give the animals the type of care that we want to give, both from a clinical perspective and also at home, you needed to encompass 5 different areas, and that is exercise, environment, enrichment, nutrition, and responsibility, but not our responsibility to the dog or the animal. It's actually more the role of the animal in the home, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But so these 5 principles, I started working with that, and I realized that very often we dealt with these as clinicians, we dealt with them in separate areas. And so when I was in general practice, we didn't have the ability to really kind of talk about it. Was moving too fast. So if you came in with a limp on your leg, on your dog's leg, we worked on the limp. Makes sense, right? That's what you're here for. However, these animals are built on all fours, which means there's not a single time that they can take load off of another joint. So one joint is hurting, that means it's affecting the rest of the body. And the more I started to realize this during my rehab training and career, I realized that if we're only paying attention to the area that's hurting, then we're missing out on some of the other things, which may or may not have already have caused the original problem. So in other words, we're treating the symptoms instead of treating the actual problem. So I was had this epiphany one late night that all of this is about coherence. And coherence is the idea that you're bringing things that have separate parts into the whole. And I decided on the word carenza, which is an Italian word for coherence. So that's why it's called that. And I guess the next step of the story is as I started to flesh this out a little bit more, I actually created a website, thecarenzaapproach.com, and I started incorporating this into some of the uh, talks that I give to veterinarians. I speak at about 8 or 10 conferences a year, and I started talking to other veterinarians about this, and we all agreed that it comes from our first day in veterinary school. When you're there and you're wide-eyed and bushy-tailed in your first day in vet school, they say, treat the whole animal.
Yeah.
Great. That's a great idea. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And then, because of the nature of medicine, you have to start breaking that down into smaller systems and
Yep.
subsystems for you to learn it. So that's the natural thing of education. They try to put it back together in your fourth year, in your last year in vet school, to treat the
Okay.
whole animal again.
Wow.
But the problem is, you're a senior in vet school. You have now been in school for 8 straight years, a lot of folks.
Yeah.
You are ready to get out. And it's kind of like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. Treat the whole animal. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of stress, but not really. And then you get out into the real world, and as veterinarians, you are hit with the onslaught of real life. And that is all of this knowledge that you have accumulated in your head has now caused it to, unfortunately, you're reaching for every book, everything. You're trying to diagnose everything, and you've only got sometimes you come out with a grace period and you've got 30-minute or 45-minute appointments, but that's usually for about 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And then veterinarians basically are on a 15 or 20-minute appointment schedule. And honestly, as a young veterinarian, you become reactionary, and we all admit to doing it. And
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, our orthopedic exams are not as good as they used to be because our minds are in so many other places. And it's not that we're doing a bad job; it's just the nature of the system. So it's a very long answer, but I think it sets up what we're talking about here. That this is not only something for the owners, but this is
Yeah.
actually also something for veterinarians. Because if
Mm-hmm.
the veterinarians are kind of bought into this idea of all of those five core principles, and we start to address those five core principles each time you come in, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be a happier owner.
Yep.
I'm going to be a happier veterinarian because I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually covering the whole thing. And yes, it's probably going to be difficult to do in 15 or 20 minutes. So that's where we recruit the idea of technicians that are asking these kind of questions, because very often colleagues of mine that are using this are telling me that we're picking up on things that we would not have picked up on before because we're
Mm-hmm.
asking these questions. Tell me about how he's eating at home. What any changes at home? And you hear,
Okay.
oh, well, yeah, I know he's
Uh-huh.
coming in. He's super nervous now. Oh, yeah, we've been renovating the house for 3 weeks and we've got all these new workers in. And now he's peeing on the bed,
Uh,
unexpectedly or nervous or whatever. And all of these things start to make sense. And you go back to really kind of the relationship veterinarians used to have with their owners.
oh
So
my goodness.
it's one of those things to where I see it as a real benefit for both sides of the industry. And I think that we've gotten way too far in the veterinary industry. Gotten way too far into the idea of reactionary medicine and kind of operating kind of like human medicine. And we just the animals can't talk, so we have to be better than that.
Oh my goodness. So true. Thank you so much for sharing this. All right. And if you are just tuning in, Dr. Tom Walsh is the one speaking here, Prime Pet Rehab. Great conversation. And wow, very insightful. Thank you. Let's continue. So the Carenza approach, we're continuing on this. Yes.
Yes.
Keep it going.
Absolutely. So you got yourself a situation to where now let's break it down into those subcategories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, exercise, environment, enrichment, nutrition, and responsibility. All right, so let's talk about exercise. We, as busy people, think that taking our dog on a walk is exercise.
No?
And that is true because it
Okay.
does raise the heart rate to a certain degree. But think about back to when your dog was a puppy. That dog was, or your cat was a
Yeah.
kitten. That cat was active and moving and chasing things. And same thing with the dogs. They're running around, they're exploring, they're doing all those things, right? Did they ever on their own walk in a straight line for 30 minutes? No, they did not. That's not the way they operate. They are
Hmm.
driven by their extraordinary senses to where they can hear and smell so many more things than we can. They follow
Okay.
their nose, they go around,
Yeah.
they investigate, they're highly curious.
Yeah.
They want to know about their environment. So, yes, that can all be true. You can have your exercise and
Mm-hmm.
go in a straight line, but we need to start thinking like, is there something more that could be done? Could we maybe look at agility classes, or maybe we down here in the South we have dock diving, to where they you see these dogs
Hmm.
jumping off into the water, chasing something that's thrown out in front of them. There's a number of different activities that you can go and do with your dog to participate. It's just like having a kid in sports. You can actually participate and enjoy, and it's something that it really piques their interest and they get something out of. It's really transformational. So exercise is a pretty basic one. We understand. Okay, well, all right, yeah, I'll buy that. We don't have to walk in a straight line all the time. Okay, I get that. All right. So incorporate that into environment. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said, they don't walk in a straight line on a concrete path.
Yeah.
Think about where their nose is leading them: underneath
Mm-hmm.
bushes, around things, around trees, down slopes, into the pond, all those sort of things. I teach my owners here to where, especially when we're in the recovery phase,
Yeah.
I teach my owners, let's think like a dog. Look out over here. Look at these curbs. Look at these trees. Look at these bushes. Let's go. And we can do the same things that I'm asking you to do, but now it's in the dog's natural environment. Okay? And that means the dog doesn't believe or doesn't think he's being worked. This is critical to get really good um, compliance with your animal. So, in other words, your animal is getting better rehabilitation or exercise, and they don't even realize it. And it's a much more interesting walk for them. I tell folks, take them to the dog park, but take them on the outside of the fence. It's going to be they're going to play inside. I get that. You can let them reward them with that, but take them on the
Mm-hmm.
outside of the fence. That's when all the dogs first come up to the thing. And what do you got? You got trees around there. You got fences. You got posts and signs and all that. And they're all sniffing all of them, and they're peeing on them. And they're doing all the things that they're supposed to be doing, right? That's interesting to them. It's very interesting. So we want to keep that, and that stimulates them in their mind. All right. So we got exercise. We got environment. We got enrichment.
Enrichment.
Unfortunately, it's not always sunny days. It's not always beautiful in 72. It gets hot as all get out down here in the South. Up north, you guys get snow and sleet and nastiness.
Mm-hmm.
As a human, it's not much fun to be in there. So you have to think, okay, I've been in the house since Thursday. Whether you're working from home or whether you're doing whatever you're doing, going out. You're only going to work, you're coming back. It's
Yeah.
miserable, especially during the winter. We see this. Guess who else has been in there except for potty breaks? Your animal. You got
Mm-hmm.
to make it exciting. You've got to stimulate their brain. Snuffle mats. These are cloth mats that you put on the floor that you can put treats in or whatever, and they use their nose to root around in there and get them. Those are creative. Play with toys. Set up a small little agility course in your house. It doesn't have to be full speed. but they can walk over broom handles. They can go around corners. You can hide different treats
Yeah.
in different areas and play go find it. There's all kinds of things that you can do if you just think outside the box. Yeah, it does take a little bit of effort. But imagine you just taking this little bit of effort and it's preventing your dog from having to be on anxiety medicine.
Yeah.
And we see it all the time. So these are so critical. These factors are so critical because these are playing right into what the
Mm,
natural aspect of how that animal works. All right. So
interesting.
you've got exercise, you've got environment, you've got enrichment. Now we got to talk about nutrition because the fuel that goes inside is very critical. Now, I'm not here. Nutrition's a whole nother podcast that we could get into, Jill. I'm not here to say anything bad about dog food, but there are a lot more owners coming to us as veterinarians that are saying, I'm not happy with the food that is just
Yeah.
coming out of the bag.
Nope. Nope.
And and so that's why you see companies like Farmer's Dog and Fresh Pet and those sort of things offering
Mm-hmm.
something more that looks like food and less that looks like cardboard pellets. For those owners that are asking me those questions, I'm going to say yes, the more you know about what you're putting in your animal, the better off you are. And so uh, a nutrition talk, an understanding about what nutrition needs are for the animal is a good conversation to have with your veterinarian, especially if your dog or cat has underlying problems. Let's say they have kidney
Mm-hmm.
problems and they need to be on a kidney-friendly food. That may be a mixture of prepared food that you do or you buy, and also a kidney food that has been researched to help with that function. It can work together.
Yeah.
It's but I think a lot of misinformation from our good friend the internet and Dr. Google, unfortunately, has spread. There are more people getting their information from Facebook and a friend of a friend who used to have five dogs, uh, you know, than there should be. There's way too much misinformation out there. We were this whole thing about the grain-free uh, stuff has now been proven
Yep.
that a total grain-free diet in animals causes significant heart problems. And so we're in if you take things to the
Hmm.
extreme, if you listen to the wrong thing, you can get into a difficult position. So you've got to be smart with what you're putting in, whether that means you're going all the way and doing a raw diet or
Yep.
cooking it yourself or whatever. You've got to find out what works best for you and also works best for your animal. But I will tell you this, the more simple the ingredients that you put in your animal, the more likelihood of better health. It's a plain and simple fact. It's just like us. The more
Just like
processed foods,
humans. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like processed foods are bad for us, processed things are bad for them. There's a reason that kibble doesn't have an expiration date on the bag that we can find.
Ah,
It's made to last a long time. Whether,
interesting.
and so there's a number of things that owners can, now that we're paying more attention in this country to, I think in the past 30 years, I think we're now paying more attention to the what's going in our own mouths and where the food is coming from and all that kind of thing. I think that the natural bleed over to that is, well, I'm feeding myself that, but what's he eating? And
Yeah.
look at their dog and like, wait a minute. And so I'm getting a lot of questions like that. So do your research. I always recommend a certified nutritionist. That is the proper place to start.
Mm-hmm.
If nutrition is not your 100% your veterinarian's jam, hey, there's other resources out there that can be that you can resource online. But just watch who you're getting your information from. It's not enough just to be a trainer. It's not enough just to be a breeder. It's more important to have some scientific nutritional background there.
Oh my
All right,
goodness.
so we've covered exercise, environment, enrichment, nutrition. Now let's talk about responsibility. Now, when I say responsibility in a pet ownership situation, that everybody thinks back to, oh, well, if I'm going to own an animal, I need to take care of it. And that is
Mm-hmm.
true. And I am assuming that that is correct. You definitely need to do that. I'm actually talking about in this responsibility something a little bit different. And I think it's easy to represent this with an analogy. So if you look at a pack of wolves in nature, and one of those um, wolves gets injured,
Mm-hmm.
that wolf that's injured will make one of two decisions. The first decision might be for it to hang back away from the pack and keep its eyes on the pack and hear it, but I'm not going to travel with the pack.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to nurse myself back to health, and then I can rejoin the pack. And then there's some wolves that will say it's not that bad and I can continue on and I'll just fake it until I make it basically and keep up with the pack. And that'll work as long as it's not a detriment to that pack.
Yeah.
Because as soon as the pack
Mm-hmm.
realizes that this is a detriment, it causes them security problems or they can't hunt properly or whatever, keep up or whatever, they will actually turn on that other wolf and they'll kill him. And that's the nature, that's what's built in. That's how high the responsibility factor is in the natural world. Now, think
Mm-hmm.
about it. We've taken these out of wolf packs, we've domesticized them. It's still inbred in them. So, who is their new pack? Their new pack is you and whoever lives with you, other animals, other
Yeah.
people. That's your pack. Why? You're providing food and shelter and care on a 24-hour basis. So therefore, you are the new pack leader,
Oh,
right?
wow. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is important because now they feel a responsibility to you. And this is why we often see animals that are injured that don't really show it very often. And you have
Oh,
to really pay attention. And some of these injury cases can go on for years unnoticed
sure can.
because they are faking it to keep up with you.
Oh my goodness.
They want to go for on those 3 mile walks with you every day. That's because that's what y'all do. That's what it brings them joy to be out in their natural world doing things with you. They want to throw the ball and they want to do all of those things that are fun with them and keep up and make you happy because it's obvious that you're happy
Sure
that
do. Yeah.
right. So they're
Exactly. You're saying it exactly. Yep.
yeah, so they're just keeping up with you. And guess what? If they are if we don't give them a job, if we treat them like a human and we go
Yeah.
away for 10 hours every day and we come back and we pet them on the head for 2 minutes and we
Mm-hmm.
feed them and then we sit down and watch TV because we're tired,
I know. Yep.
they're going to find other ways to get our attention. And so that
Yep.
responsibility works both ways. So I try to teach owners and vets about all
Mm-hmm.
five of these concepts and how they work together. And if you have a simple checklist when you go into your veterinarian that kind of
Mm-hmm.
touches on all five of these points,
Should, yeah.
then you're going to get a better understanding of their complete health. And I
Okay.
also challenge that it will also reduce down on the number of health problems they can have. Now, I can't solve genetic problems, and I can't solve traumatic injuries to where we, rupture a knee ligament.
Yeah.
Something we fall out of a car and injure our back. I can't
True.
solve that.
Mm-hmm.
But in an overall general state, we have a lot of animals that are on anxiety medicines. We have a lot of animals that are on allergy medicines. I think that we have seen time and time again, especially here in my office,
Yep.
paying attention to all five of these can reduce those things in many cases. Sometimes not, but in many cases, it's just like this. If it makes too much sense, think about it. If you actually paid conscious attention
Oh
to the
gosh, yeah.
five things that I just said and applied that to your life, guess what?
Tell
You're
us.
probably going to live a pretty balanced life.
Yep.
And so that's why I'm so passionate about the Carenza approach. and about kind of leading this revolution. I actually have been doing some podcasts that are available on all of the major podcast things that I go into individual topics on each one of these things, like how different forms of exercise, indoors and outdoors, different types of things in it. And I've
Yeah.
done, I don't know, 60 or 70 of them. And
God
so they're
bless.
out there to try to help unite owners in a sea of misinformation. I'm trying to be a lighthouse. I'm trying to say, hey, we can pull this together. You don't have to listen to every new trend and new fad and new everything that comes out. And oh, I'm using magnets on my dog's head because I think he's got migraines. Okay, I'm
Like,
sorry.
wait, what? Yeah.
You've got to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what you're talking about. I mean, and whoever is telling you that is, you just have to start questioning it a little bit and say, okay, what's the science behind this?
It's so true. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Tom. Gotta wrap it up. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time. How
Sure.
can we contact you, darling?
Sure. PrimePetRehab.com is my
Mm-hmm.
website, and you can also access all the social media as well as the podcasts. You can also access the Carenza approach. I've got a separate page for that, and that has a link, some links on it as well. And send emails if you have any questions. We're happy to answer. We're trying to start a grassroots movement across the country to educate owners so that they can have happy, healthy pets and be on less medicines and just basically have an overall better quality of life.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Doctor. I'll talk to you next week, I hope,
That
and
sounds good.
enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you so much for doing what you do and enlightening all of us. And wait, is this our last show or
I
is
think this
this?
is the last one we have scheduled, but
Well, let me say, well,
we
until
want to
next
get some more.
time.
That's
Until
right.
next time. All right. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Have a great day. Thank you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.